All right, welcome everyone. Today is 7/17/2023. This is the IPS Morning Deprogram. Notifications have just gone out. And let me start by going through the last IPM press release. Infinite Plane Media is now releasing press releases that are actually augmented by chatbots, ChatGPT, Claude AI. For immediate release, Kennedy Scion insinuates Jewish Chinese vaccine agenda while promoting QAnon theories. Environmental lawyer, which I should mention, Robert F. Kennedy, besides being a Democrat, is also a total climate Greta. So it's interesting how he's massively appealing to the far, far right, who have gone so far right, they're practically left now. It's absolutely the case. I think others have noticed it as well, that there's this horseshoe theory in politics where the far left, the far right, they don't quite meet, but there's a point where the extremes get closer than not. Robert F. Kennedy made questionable comments about Jewish people and Chinese citizens while speaking at an event this weekend. Yeah, this was a dinner where he was suggesting that the virus was some kind of ethnically targeted bioweapon that specifically went after whites and blacks, but kind of left the hands off the Chinese and the Jews. Well, this fits right into a lot of racial politics in which it's the Jews that are against the whites and the blacks and they need to unite. So it feeds into that. But despite all this, Kennedy insists that he was taken out of context, and this has nothing to do with insinuating that the Jews were behind the pandemic. So he says this multiple times. So what do? We take him at his word, or we think he's lying. And these are your options if you're an RFK Jr. follower. If you take him at his word and he didn't know how it would sound, the terrible PR, the insinuations, then you would have to conclude that RFK Jr. is clueless and likely a dupe. If, on the other hand, he knows what he's saying, he's using these appropriate dog whistles to tap into the right demographics, then he's a manipulative demagogue who's disingenuous in the way he retracts his comments after stating them, which is very common for demagogues anyway. Stochastic violence, for example. So I don't really find him to be all that believable when he backtracks on these things. He says, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Okay, fine. You're not an anti-vaxxer, but you check all the boxes. So what it means is we just can't trust what he says. And one more point about RFK. He is the reason why the QAnoners believe JFK Jr. is alive. There was this very infamous live stream where RFK Jr. touches his nose when somebody says, touch your nose if RFK Jr. is still alive. So again, RFK Jr. conclusion, shrewd, demagogue, sophist. Audiences are stooges and idiots, useful idiots. And again, he's the number one Q spreader. Next, Tom Cruise is going to space, finally. So we'll be following that ground control to Major Tom narrative. Now, this may throw some QAnoners for a loop. Trump called for a standing ovation for beautiful Hillary and Bill Clinton. He said, quote, many of them and I are friends. She used to be crooked Hillary, but I took that off and gave it to Biden. Now she's beautiful Hillary. So he kind of backtracks. Whatever happened to lock her up, lock her up? She's like the head high priestess of the satanic blood drinking cult known as the Democrat Party deep state. And now they're friends. Is this 8D chess? Is this some kind of power move that the QAnoners are privy to? I don't know how they're going to take it. Somebody check on QMum. Next, I found this picture of a big goat. Speaking of QMum, QMum is one of my favorite Twitter channels to monitor, keep my finger on the pulse of the noners. And she posted this picture, which looks like it's from the 1800s, but it's high definition, but it's black and white, so you know it's real. And it's this giant goat about the size of an elk. And these little kids are taking a picture with it. And she's like, if this is real, wow. And I have to ask myself, is this level of visual illiteracy pandemic? Are people suffering from an inability to tell the difference between real and fake, reality impairment, acquired reasoning deficiency syndrome, mind aids? That's what I mean when I say that, where someone just sees something, they believe it, they catch it. So it's one of two things. It's either that we're seeing the effects of, internet casualties, or we're looking at a deliberate operation, as in agents engaging in a campaign of cognitive sabotage. Yes, cognitive sabotage. Make it impossible for them to discern the truth or form any kind of cohesive picture because of the flood of contradictory information, clickbait, and facts that people just accept and believe. In other words, yes, I think this is sabotage. Let me run through your comments. Again, this is July 17th, 2023. This is the Ips Morning Deprogram. Jan Francis, your mama, says RFK Jr. is controlling opposition 100%. I think so. It has to be. The fact that he's a Democrat's kind of shady, because he is, they're like, oh, he's going to steal votes from other Democrat candidates. He's going to upset the Democrat Party. Well, actually, no, he's very attractive to a bunch of Trump voters, which shows you that they're not about position politically. The Trump voters don't have a political platform. It's a cult of personality. That's how they can go from, yeah, I'm a staunch, limited government, conservative Tea Party type, but yeah, I'm going to go follow a Democrat because his last name. So controlled opposition seems to fit. Going through some comments more, Johan Francis says, Sticks, Steve Turley, Mark Dice, Salty Cracker, Brandon Tatum. The commentators on those channels irk me so much these days, more than liberals. Yeah, Mark Dice already blocked me. And these are all world stagers. I know who you're talking about, Sticks Hexenhammer, Mark Dice. These individuals were commentators during the 2016 election, and they all blew up. And we're going to do something similar for this next election cycle. You won't have to listen to them. We will be here every day, the Ips Morning Deprogram, and evenings, open phones. The modem's arriving today. The router will be here in about 6 hours. So we will likely have phones open tonight. I don't see anything blocking that. But the matrix is tricky, and I didn't see it. I didn't foresee the UPS missing the delivery on Saturday. Friday. Okay, let's continue here. Zero Infinity Live, thank you for joining. G33, good morning, thank you for joining. Let's go. Yorak Hunt, Rob Files. Rob Files says, anyone who buys a ticket to the political arena deserves to watch the sport. Look, I would buy a ticket to see Musk and Zuckerberg fight at the Roman Coliseum, but Musk's mom said no, unfortunately. She said Musk can't come out to play. Little Elon can't go fight Mark, which is probably a good thing for him. We used to say, Mark Zuckerberg, thick like Zuckerberg. You see the picture of him on that hydro board where he's on the water, and he trains, and Musk tweets. So I don't know if it's a fair matchup. And then you're also looking at Android versus Cyborg. So the Cyborg still has the human aspects to it. I don't know if he can compete. Now, if they do the measuring contest that Musk had suggested, look, androids don't have anything. Cyborgs do. So I think that's also kind of not going to happen. EOTR Radio says German doctors are attempting to reverse death and resurrect humans. Interesting. I thought the way that immortality was going to pan out is going to be digital. Like, we can't save your body, but we can upload your consciousness into a computer and you can live in a sim. Like that movie Upload. It's a series, rather, on Amazon. It's all about this, where people dying, instead of going to heaven, they go to this digital version of a heaven where they can still interact with their family members who can buy them stuff with the apps. So it's like selling indulgences. I suppose it's somewhat blasphemous. I guess it's a parody, but your sentience is preserved. Although the best they can do, the way things seem to be looking today, is they can create a facsimile of you that'll be fake, but it might be convincing to some family members, which is just morbid. It's like using a Ouija board to talk to dead loved ones. Uriah Hunt says, man will seek death and not find. Oh yeah, end times. We are kind of living in the end times from the script perspective. They always have us thinking it's about to end. In fact, there was some lady today, or was it yesterday, who was hit by an asteroid. And last night we were in chat talking about the movie Asteroid City and a number of other things along those lines. But yeah, I just got this headline that someone was, I guess she was at a cafe and an asteroid, or a meteor rather, came through the window and hit her. Sure, it's totally real. No way they could fake that. I'll see if I can find the person's name. The last one I saw was a Canadian who was in her bedroom, and construction workers reported that they heard a boom and they saw a big flashing ball of light, like a fireball. So those fireballs crashing down to earth. But once it hits her roof, something happened because it landed on her pillow. She was like asleep in bed, and an asteroid comes down to earth, a meteorite crashes through her roof, witnesses everywhere, but then it lands on her pillow. It didn't bounce after it punctured through her ceiling. No, it just landed. So I find that strange. Newsweek.com, woman hit by meteorite while having coffee with a friend. She's in France. She was chatting with her friend outside on a terrace when she was hit in the ribs by a mysterious pebble. I heard a big poom, P-O-O-M, coming from the room next to us. In the second that followed, I felt a shock on the ribs. I thought it was a bat, the woman said. We thought it was a piece of cement from one of the ridge tiles, but it didn't have that color. Well, after she was struck, the roofer or someone looked at it and they said, no, this is part of a meteorite. And they found some geologist who was able to tell her, and this was Theory Rebman, was able to explain to her that the rock, the pebble that hit her in the ribs, was a meteorite from space. He said the rock appeared to contain iron and silicon, which could be a meteorite. Now, what's Occam's razor got to say on this? Like, what's more likely? I would say it's more likely it was a bat, or she was annoying and somebody flicked a pebble at her, than this was an actual meteor. The first confirmed case of a meteorite directly striking a person was in the United States 70 years ago. Ann Hodges of Alabama, who was struck by an 8-pound meteorite that crashed through her roof in 1954. Another one. Now, that one went through the roof, bounced off the radio, hit the couch, and then it hit her on the bed and left a big bruise, which looked suspiciously like lipstick smeared on her hip. And then a police officer and the mayor showed up for a photo op. An 8-pound rock. Again, I called that out as phony. I was saying, how come this doesn't happen again? This was in 2020, and that I was talking about this. And then some 33-year-old coffin maker had an asteroid, a meteorite, hit his house, and he sold it for millions. I don't know if you remember that. The coffin maker, 33. The story is, okay, he got cheated. He got cheated. Look, listen, the original story. Man becomes millionaire after meteorite falls through his roof. 33-year-old coffin maker turned out to be a canny negotiator, says U.S. buyer of space debris. Now, I thought a coffin maker would have been doing well in 2020, but apparently he wasn't. Explain that. Anyway, he only ended up selling it for $14,000. He got totally cheated. Coffin maker feels cheated after selling a meteorite that smashed through his roof for $14,000. Although the price is probably fair. Okay, I think, you know what? He should have held on to it. He should have waited. 33-year-old coffin maker. $14,000. Because someone could just resell it. They could flip it. All right, let's continue going through the press release from yesterday first. So when it comes to the QAnoners and Trump saying he's friends with the Clintons, all we can say is, we can just be supportive and enabling. Keep snorting the hopium. Keep drinking the Kool-Aid. Freebasing the QRACK crack, because it's never going to end. The Seventh-day Adventists have been waiting for Jesus to return for more than a couple hundred years, and that expectation he would arrive on a certain date not being fulfilled does not cause the cult to break apart. Paradoxically, it strengthens the core. And all the people from the outside who call them crazy only reinforce them. Yesterday was 7/16, so we talked a little bit in the chats there about this. I want to kind of run over this. It's the Kubrick-Kennedy code. Again, 7/16 is the date that Apollo 11 launched from Kennedy. 7/16 is the day Eyes Wide Shut was released. 7/16 was the day JFK Jr. crashed. So those are three Kennedy connections, but then also the Kubrick connections, assuming he filmed Apollo 11. Then you have the Trinity test on 7/16, 1946, which may have a connection here. That was at 5:29 a.m. 5:29 is JFK's birthday. But anyway, 7/16, nuke test, Apollo 11, Eyes Wide Shut, Kennedy Space Center, Kennedy crashing. There's something up. Yesterday, Dr. Buzz Aldrin tweeted this. 54 years ago, Apollo 11 launched. Eagle soaring from Earth atop Saturn V, bound for the moon. It seems like only yesterday that we embarked on the mission of a lifetime, a mission for all mankind, a mission I hope will continue to inspire into our future. Now, when I see the word mission there, I think missionaries. I think of a religious cult spreading. And that's ultimately what it is. It's all fantasy. Did they actually go to the moon? Well, it depends. It really depends. I mean, I look at it as allegory, and it has to be. I think space travel is just allegory for higher consciousness. Space is the new heaven. But Buzz Aldrin is a great actor. We used to have this kind of a debate here. Who's a better astronaut, Buzz Aldrin or William Shatner, Captain Kirk? Because if being an astronaut is nothing more than pretending to be in space on a screen, you would have to actually say that William Shatner has spent more time as a, quote, astronaut than Aldrin, who hasn't been in space in 50 years. But as far as who's a better actor, well, Aldrin. He has kept up the act this entire time, with a few minor slips. I think Aldrin's like, oh yeah, there's a monolith on Mars. Or, we didn't really go to the moon, he says to the kid. I mean, he has had a few slips. And there's another one too. I've seen a few actually. Buzz Aldrin needs handlers. He'll still talk about how he went to the moon, but then his descriptions sound like something else. There's one where he was talking about landing on the moon, and he talked about hearing the engines of the jet as they hit the runway. So again, he's slipping. Hollywood grinds to a halt. Movies and shows paused. Fears that AI will replace jobs. Disney, Netflix, Amazon suffer. 170,000 Hollywood actors and writers go on strike against Disney, Netflix, Amazon, and Sony. 170,000. I didn't know there were that many. And how many crisis actors are there? And since they don't have some kind of a guild representation, do they have any protections against being replaced by CGI? I don't think so. So all these crisis actors are going to be out of work. They're going to be disgruntled. I talk about the Government Actors Guild. Yeah, the gag's not real. It's just a joke. So they don't have any representation. And if they get replaced by CGI, they're not going to be able to go on strike, which makes me wonder, does this open up the possibility of a whistleblower? Some disgruntled, angry crisis actor who's out of work because of CGI. We should actually have a contact form. If you're a crisis actor and you want to blow the whistle. Here's a list of the movies affected by the strike. Gladiator 2. Interesting. Denzel Washington. Gladiator 2 could be predictive programming for Musk and Zuckerberg at the Roman Colosseum, which is perfect. Zuckerberg is extremely fascinated with Augustus Caesar. That's why he has that haircut. And if you look at the bread and circuses, or Netflix and social media as the circus, then you could see how Facebook kind of serves the role of the Roman Colosseum. Thumbs up, thumbs down, gauging the will of the fickle mob, like or dislike. Okay, let's see. Let's continue here. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 with Tom Cruise is on hold. Again, Tom Cruise is about to go to space. There's a new Beetlejuice in production with Michael Keaton and Tim Burton, so I'm disappointed that one's cut off. Well, hopefully they finish that one. Here's one. Christopher Nolan says he will not produce any films during the strikes, but he doesn't say that he's opposed to working on psychological operations and psychodramas using his films. And if anybody filmed the nuke that they're going to use when they simulate the destruction of Seattle, it's going to be Nolan's work. The strikers have grievances having to do with fears of being replaced by AI. The studios argue that the union's demands are unrealistic given the challenges the entertainment industry faces. Quote, "This is the worst time in the world to add to the disruption," says Disney's CEO. I don't feel like it's a big loss. Like if all these Hollywood types all were to stop producing content, it's not like there's a dearth of content. I mean, we have nothing but content. That's all it is. It's a flood. So I'm like, well, go ahead, step aside. And if anything, again, it's probably an indication that something else is going on. 170,000 actors on strike. Still, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, how much of an overlap is there between Hollywood actors and crisis actors? I mean, we saw in 2020 how all the Hollywood types became crisis actors. So maybe the 170,000 might be employed with something else. The strike could be a cover for all of them going to work with whatever big operation's coming next. Like, for example, 170,000 alien costumes. All right, let's see. Continuing on here. Let me catch up with your comments. All right, here we go. Tommy Jones, thank you for joining. Javo82 says swollen cankles. I don't know the context. Are you talking about Hillary? Reptile versus Robot 737. Oh yeah, Godzilla versus King Kong. There's so many ways we could frame this Musk and Zuckerberg thing. Junders Plunkett says, seems all very legit. Yeah, the lady in France getting hit by the meteor makes perfect sense. That they had, she's sitting there having coffee, right? And this rock comes down, hits her in the rib. And like, what the hell is this? Then the roofer's like, oh yeah, let me look at that. No, that's not from the roof. Let's ask this geologist. So look across the room, across the cafe. The geologist comes over. He's like, yeah, that's definitely from space. Like, okay. But people will believe it because it's on TV. People will believe it because they want to believe it, because it's charming, because it's funny, because it's water cooler talk. We are in a place where it's reality fluidity. Reality is fluid. It's subjective, and you can believe what you want. I call this the lie world order, and I have a manuscript on this I'm developing, among other things, but this lie world order concept is crucial to understanding how this thing works, because they get everyone complicit in lies. And most people are unwitting liars in one way or another. Skill says they sign non-disclosure agreements. Oh yes, they sign non-disclosure agreements. They take blood oaths. They sign their name in blood. I mean, who knows what they do, but whatever they're doing, they're in a secret society, hermetically sealed, compartmentalized. Nobody's talking. Joined by Mizell, an NA literalist. NA literalist says aliens are so cool. You know, I watched Asteroid City, and the alien scene stood out to me because the people are gathered to watch some celestial event, and they have cardboard boxes on their heads, you know, cubes. And the alien unexpectedly descends in this hexagram-shaped craft with a hexagon in the middle, which gives you a two-dimensional cube. So you had all the usual symbolism of beings from above, like Elohim. You have this alien descending to this group of people with cubes on their heads. There's an occult subtext here. to the alien descending. But the movie, this is a Wes Anderson, which probably explains it, but the movie Asteroid City's Alien, it's nothing like Alien from the movie. It's a cartoon. It's an animation. So it's a realistic movie. It's film, real people, real actors. But then you have this cartoon moment, this cheesy, corny animation. And I thought, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But then someone in the audience was like, wow, that's so cool. And people were like laughing and they were happy about it. And I thought, well, this is their religion. Like children saying, Santa, come down the chimney. John Cordone says, if Zuckerberg is an android and Elon is an alien, we may need a demon like Bezos to jump in and make it battle royale. Yes, Bezos, who is in all likelihood some kind of a demon. There's something there. I mean, who else would spend $42 million on a satanic altar and put it in the Devil Mountain? Out there in Texas, Sierra Diablo, he put a $42 million clock inside of this mountain, a 10,000-year clock. Well, the clock is a symbol of Saturn. It's Kronos. It's the god they worship. You know, Kronos, the god that's always eating the children. It's all symbolic. It's not literal cannibalism. I think it has to do with the fact that Father Time is devouring life from the moment it's born. Can't take the stuff too literally. Or the image of Abraham taking his kid up the hill to slaughter him with the knife, and then he gets stopped. But the image of the patriarch with the knife about to kill the child, that archetypal image, that's symbolic of Saturn. Abraham is a personification of Saturn. He's the same character as, and the devouring the child, stabbing his son Isaac. Yeah, it's just part of the same story. It's a solar allegory. It's the god of the harvest, the grim reaper, Father Time. Okay, let us move on. Phones will be open tonight, and we will be resuming the Infinite Plane Radio Open Phones for Open Minds. And I'm also going to be leaving the days open. I'll have open phones hours for people who want to call in to do things that are maybe off topic. I'm totally interested in debate. I decided we need to debate a number of things. I want to debate chemtrails. I want to debate vaccines. I want to debate dinosaurs and aliens. But we want to do so in a structured way. It's not a back and forth. It's not a tense situation where you have an audience of hostiles. It's really going to be a structured format that is meant to bring out the best information and arguments from both sides. The beginning of wisdom is the ability to call things by their right names. Confucius. I have that out because we live in this reality fluid world, and history is a set of lies agreed upon. Napoleon Bonaparte. I would say that mass media is a set of lies agreed upon. And if you can't call things like they are, you will be a fool. The world will make you a fool. The world stage will turn you into a dupe. So the beginning of wisdom is the ability to call things by their right names, discernment, but not only discernment, but having the backbone to say it like it is. So when I call the media liars and I call the truthers a bunch of subjectivists, I'm just being accurate. Now, I got this comment about Tim Ballard. We've been talking a lot about the movie Sound of Freedom, which I watched and reviewed here. I haven't written out a review yet, but I'm about to. And a number of people are questioning if Tim Ballard actually exists, or if this is all some kind of a manufactured hero. So I got a comment from the Canadian who said, Tim Ballard, wiki page, appears made up. City, state only for his birth, no date, no age. This person seemingly did not exist before the movie. If you're not familiar with the movie, Sound of Freedom was shot in 2018, funded by Mexican investors, according to the New York Times. And it was slated for release by 20th Century Fox, but it was shelved by Disney in 2019. So it makes sense to me that if it had come out in 2018, 2019, it would have had a much greater impact, because that was the height of the Save the Children, QAnon, Hillary drinks blood, the Democrats are adrenochrome drinkers. That was the height of that panic, this QAnon satanic panic thing. And now nobody cares. Like, this is how it works. The attention span in the attention economy, it's so fractured. Like, you have a movie that's poignant, it has all the imagery, they're rescuing children. It would have been huge had they released it at that time. But now, do people care? I don't know. I think they virtue signal. Like, how come you didn't watch the movie? Don't you care about trafficked kids? No, I didn't watch the movie because it's probably just political agitprop. Oh, well, you must be a groomer. That's their argument. It's like the Kramer thing in the AIDS ribbon. It's virtue signaling. Like, I care about it just as much as you do, but the fact that you watched a movie and talked about it doesn't mean you care about it more. And the movie was not a documentary. Oh, this is interesting. Why is Europe's latest heat wave called Cerebus? It's complicated. So the European heat wave is named after the three-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades. Fascinating. A little sensationalistic, but this is par for the course. We're in the dog days of summer. From 7/3 to 8/11, we are in the dog days. Sirius is behind the sun. And the occultists and their superstitious views say that this somehow magnifies the intensity of the sun's rays. But whatever it is, the media certainly hypes it. You'll see the word, they'll call it, they'll say it's a scorcher. That's what they said last year, because that's what Sirius means. I believe it's a Greek word. It means scorcher. Sirius, the dog star that they all worship, that everyone worships on New Year's. You know, the ball dropping countdown. If you ever did a New Year's countdown, you were participating in some kind of coordinated ritual referencing the peak of Sirius at midnight and then its subsequent fall. Going through your comments, Mizelle says, definitely virtue signaling, like folks posting themselves crying after the movie. Yes, I was actually sitting next to a couple. One, there was a lot of people there, but one of the couples next to me were watching it. And whenever the scenes got tense, like the rescuers are going into the place where the pedos are, the guy's jaw would clench and his fists would get tight and his wife would hug him tighter. Like, it was like, to me, it was like, I don't know, signaling for sure. And one of the things that Tim Ballard said in this interview is he talks about how he's watched thousands of hours of child abuse videos and how it's hardened him, but he needed to see it. And I think these guys going into the theater are watching it in the same way. Like, I need to see this. I need to be aware. And it's meant to start some kind of a movement. And there was this hype that since BlackRock owns the theaters, they're shutting off the air conditioning. So if you go to watch it, it's going to be very hot. They're going to leave the lights on. It's going to be very uncomfortable. Yeah, that's all just grassroots marketing. Great marketing ploy. Because you had people think, okay, they don't want us to see it. Let's go see it. Well, I thought it was fine. Air conditioning was fine. I think that was all made up. I don't believe that there was some coordinated sabotage. But if you look at the bigger story, you got Mel Gibson, Hollywood outsider. He had to fight to get Passion of the Christ out there because he was persecuted. Tim Ballard wanted to save the kids, but the bureaucracy at the DHS got in the way. But thankfully, he went above their heads. He fought the system. Then you have Jim Caviezel, QAnoner in this movie, which is being shelved by Disney, which is being suppressed. So they have to fight to get it out. So these individuals involved in this whole project have all played the "we are being censored" card. Okay, this is a very good point here. Skill says, the truth does not depend on your point of view, like some crazy Schrodinger's cat TV show. No, the truth is not 100% subjective, as they would have us think. But in the world of believers, in the blue-pilled reality, where no one has access to the truth because it is guarded and gate-kept, hidden with stage magic and sleight of mind, it's systemically hidden. The truth is pretty much illegal hate speech, whatever you want to call it. But no, the purpose of it is to keep everyone in a world of belief. Believers versus believers, nobody actually ever knows. Therefore, the lying media, liars, the lying media are counted by the truthers. And the truthers don't have access to truth. They have access to counter narratives. So you have liars versus truthers, but they're equally subjective. But the difference is that the liars are spewing lies that have been fed to them by the psyop entertainment complex, is what I call it. And that these lies are calculated to hide the truth. So this has created this reality fluidity where, from the experience, the personal experience, the person in the basement, the person who's heavily saturated in media, yeah, their reality does become somewhat fluid where, yeah, you can be a cat. And what you can pretty much claim and say anything and no one's going to contest it. And then if somebody tries to say that's not true, well, that person is now guilty of hate speech because, again, truth is hate to those who hate truth. And they're getting rid of truth itself. We're all mad here. This is Wonderland. Yuan Francis says, hottest week in Europe ever, apparently this week. Oh, yeah, this is the hottest day. This is the hottest summer in human history. Hottest summer in 20 billion years, because the Earth is now 20 billion. Heard that on Joe Rogan. Okay, let me continue here. Mizell says, gross, who would watch thousands of hours? Yeah, that's what I thought. And the movie has him watching these things and documenting it. And then he goes undercover and he meets this pedo at a restaurant. And he says, yeah, I'm with the FBI, but I've seen so much that now I'm one of you. So he caught it. And this goes into the idea that you can somehow catch things. You can catch asexual preference like a virus because of social contagion. You can catch sin because, sin has been replaced in the modern paradigm with the virus. And the believers in the virus have their own orthodoxies, their cult of scientism. But the traditional religions aren't so worried about the virus. They're worried about sin, the more traditional version, and its remediation. One side prefers hand sanitizer. The other side prefers holy water. Okay, going through some comments. Mizell says, oh my God, it's on IG post. Some kid said he was fired for not adding some liquid with nanotech to the drinks served to the folks seeing the movie. Yeah, there was rumors that nanobots were being added into the drinks to anyone watching the movie. So this movie was partisan. It was not marketed to the left. It was not marketed to the mainstream. It was target marketed at QAnoners. And they're such liars by trying to downplay this. Tim Ballard, maybe he's not a QAnoner, but Jim Caviezel 100% is. But Tim Ballard is a Wayfair conspiracy theorist. And during the movie, they show the big barges with those big crates in them where their kids are being transported. Well, those were pointed out during the whole Wayfair conspiracy, which came out. What Wayfair was, 2019, 2020? Now, if you don't know Wayfair, Waif, like a lost kid, Fair. Wayfair is a company that sells furniture, but the rumor was that some of the items in their catalog were very expensive. So you buy a cabinet, a filing cabinet, for $20,000, and its name is Sandy for some weird reason. Well, you order it and you get some kid named Sandy inside of it. But yes, they were marketing this with paranoia. They're going to shut off the air conditioning. They're going to leave the lights on. They're going to put nanobots and Vax juice in your drinks. And people bought it. And this was a shill thing. And movie theaters have always used shills, where they would have people traveling around standing in line to make it look like there's a huge demand. Great marketing. Another marketing tack I saw was, I think it was House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie, where in some theaters they were handing out these barf bags. Well, nobody throws up during a movie. Like, that's gross and it's silly, but it's a great marketing tactic because a lot of people would say, I want to see it. I want to test myself. Joined by Diana South. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Cub Star. Truman B3000 says press pass and wrench penguin painting arrived Saturday. Thanks, Tim. Mazel says my IPS keychain broke last week. Interestingly, I'm in the new office and I just unpacked merch that we have. And we have keychains. I'll be listing those. We have coloring books by XFOC, Creatures of the Infinite Plane, copies of the World Stage Deprogramming Guide, and a few other things. In fact, I brought in here an ashtray that X had made that has a penguin on it. Thinks he's a penguin 101 says, happy birthday, Gaia. Please forgive my recycling sins. Oh, if you want to confess your environmental sins, you go to NBC Climate Confessionals and you can confess like that old cat lady. It's like, I'm using too many paper towels to clean up my cat hair. I'm sorry. Sorry, Gaia. Mazel says, who buys sodas for $10 at the movie? Yeah, if you pay $10 for a soda at a movie theater, maybe you deserve a little nanobot spikeage. Okay, thinks he's a penguin says, I promise to compost daily. I'll start tomorrow. Okay, that's your attrition. Like you have your 10 Hail Marys or whatever. You have to recycle 10 aluminum cans and compost. That will absolve you of your climate sins. Rob File says, no one throws up at the movies. Barf bags are on planes. When was the last time you saw someone barf on a plane? I never have. I haven't. But I think it's always been a marketing ploy with the movies. No, on the planes these days, it's just reptilians. And, they haven't seen her. The lady who saw the reptile on the plane, they haven't been able to find her. Someone said it was someone named Jenna Wilson. It wasn't her. Someone else had pointed at somebody else who had a similar look. But no, they haven't actually found the person. And someone made a Twitter account pretending to be her. Truman B3000 says, there's a lot of space programming in my Facebook newsfeed lately. Right. I've noticed that too. They're picking up the space thing. Somebody got hit by an asteroid. We just had Asteroid City, the movie. Now, Asteroid City, someone gets hit by a meteor. Predictive programming? Probably. What does it mean that Oppenheimer just came out? Like, when is the nuke gonna be dropped? Joined by Mama Baroness 138. Thank you for joining. This is the IPS Morning Deprogram. Main topic, some lady in a French cafe was hit by a meteor. Other than that, the big stories, Hollywood has ground to a halt, 170,000 actors on strike. And I'm thinking maybe they moonlight. What if the SAG is the gag? What if the Screen Actors Guild is actually the Government Actors Guild? Like it's a side gig. And perhaps maybe we now have 170,000 crisis actors on the loose. All right, well, we'll be back this evening, open phones. There's so much more to talk about. I'm going to save a lot of it. We had an interesting conversation about chemtrails and someone proffered a different theory, human vibration. Let me run this by you really quick because I had come up with an experiment to prove or disprove. And it's basically this. If the main argument for chemtrails is that they're spraying something and the counter argument is hot jet exhaust in the rarefied air is causing the trails, well then why don't we do an experiment where we don't use a jet? We don't even allow the possibility of hot jet exhaust in the rarefied air creating these cirrus clouds. So let's take the chemtrail materials, the juice, the poison, the aluminum, the barium, whatever's in it, and let's send it up in a weather balloon to 20,000 feet. GoPro lens, we want high def, and it's going to dump the chemtrail fluid, whatever it is, the chemtrail juice at 20,000 feet. And then we can observe, does any substance, when dropped from this altitude, create the same effect that can be easily mistaken for a cirrus cloud? Or does it dissipate? If it doesn't become something without the hot jet exhaust, then I think we might be able to conclude that chemtrails were a mistaken or misperception this entire time. T-Dog135 says lizards on a plane looks Shakespearean. Yeah, the lady who got up and talked about that MFer is not real. I've even seen those shirts. TMF. Yeah, that motherfucker is not real. She was acting, I thought, quite a thespian. Yeah, TMF INR is now like a shirt. Snakes on a plane. That might have been a drill. They haven't found her. Someone had pointed this out. They said they find any Karen on the internet within 10 minutes. How has she remained hidden here for almost, is it 2 weeks now? It's been 2 weeks since she's been missing. Mazel says she was acting and not scared. There was someone who found a picture of her in one frame where it looked like she was grinning, like a little duper's delight. Mama's Bear Nest says, I use chemtrail for weight loss. It's amazing. I lose 30 pounds in one day. All right. Open phones tonight once I receive the router, and we're going to have caller queue. So if you have anything you want to talk about, I'll be sending the number in the text alerts. So get on the text alerts as well. Let's see here. Cubstar says she told us she wasn't real. Yeah, what was this? Was this a psyop? Was it a drill with the airlines? Maybe they're doing some kind of internal drill to see how they handle mental patients. We don't know. But I'm not going to take her word for it that MFer wasn't real. And where's he? Where's the MFer? I would have been like, I'm real. I would have been in front of this, but no, there's no one else there. There's nothing to corroborate. Has she been charged? Is there a mugshot? Okay, well, we'll be back this evening. Sign up for text alerts. Go to ips.monster. And yeah, I want to talk about this counterpoint that Human Vibration offered as to the suggestion that, here's what she said, and then you can think on this and we'll debate this later. She said, counterpoint, what if it's the same material used in skywriting? A lingering but harmless trail. Yes, because skywriting uses some kind of oil. So what she says here, instead of messages, maybe it's just straight lines. And that's all we need to believe we're being poisoned from above. And powerless to stop it. Diabolically simple. So she's sort of agreeing with me that chemtrails aren't a thing, but she's suggesting that maybe they are a thing. As in, no, they're not dumping poisons, but they want us to think they are. Which is an interesting take on it. Especially when you look at the amount of deliberate confusion surrounding the topic. But we'll talk about that and much more later. You'll get the archives if you sign up for the newsletter. Get on the text alerts because I will be putting the phone number in the text blast. And there's about 40 people here now. This evening, with the text alerts, we should be well over 100. And then, of course, we'll keep our eyes out, look for the MFer that isn't real. We're keeping our eyes out for this possible actress, possible Crike. Oh, look at this here. Thinks he's a penguin says, I saw another video of someone freaking out on the plane. Maybe it's an analog to subways. Okay, see, there we go. Thank you. Glad we caught